So there's a little talk about morality going on right now, and I'm sure some of you are wondering where I stand on all this. You see, I don't hold to a particular ethical theory. I'm a moral skeptic, except for the fact that I'm an emotivist. I'm sure most of you aren't familiar with that term. I'll try to explain as best as I can here. I've come more or less to the conclusion that moral truths don't exist, at least not as truths. Moral statements aren't true or false. They're opinions, much like you would say, I like chocolate ice cream, or I don't like Rocky Road. Now, I don't really think that moral statements are really of that same kind of caliber of opinion, but I'll touch on that in a little bit. Right now, I just want to make it clear that they are opinions. That's not to say I'm a moral relativist. Is moral relativism and emotivism, are they compatible? I don't know, maybe. But I'm not a relativist. Actually, I would be inclined to say that they're not compatible, since the relativist would say that the truths do exist, except that they're relative to the individual. I don't say that. Moral statements are opinions. I would kind of say that there are two types of opinions. The first kind of opinion is kind of like I've already said. I like chocolate ice cream. I don't like Rocky Road. Now, I actually do like Rocky Road, but I like Pepsi, or I don't like Coke. Those are type A opinions. They're self-justified because no one else can tell you what you like or what you don't like. And then there's the other type of opinion, that while it is an opinion, it can be justified more or less, I want to say, objectively, but that's not really the word I want to use. It's basically like if you want to make an argument saying that Macintosh is better than Windows personal computer, and I realize those aren't the same thing, so don't jump on my case. Then you could make an argument for it. You could say Macintosh has got this and that, and it's more stable, whatever. And the stability, by the way, that's... I won't get into that. And you could justify your position, but you could also justify being a PC fan. These kind of things that you could use facts to justify your opinion, but that doesn't change the fact that it's an opinion. So, even though I feel that moral statements such as murder is wrong are opinions and not facts, that doesn't mean that I think opinions are equally valid. They are if they're the first type, the self-justified type. But I consider moral statements more of the second type of opinion, where you could actually argue and debate on a particular item and say, make a case for it, basically. And while they still are opinions, I would say that some opinions are more valid than others. To give an example, I want to use a computer analogy again. To say that other than the price tag, a computer with all the modern stuff, an AMD Athlon or an Intel Pentium 4 or something, a nice motherboard. Mine's got a WinFast 16. Anyway. 1 or 2 gigabytes of RAM, 250 gigabytes hard disk drive. I would say that saying this computer is better than an old Commodore 64 or a 386 or something, I would say that that is a more valid opinion. That, while not a fact, still an opinion, it's a valid one. And I'm not going to get here into validity. Most people would say that the computer I just described would be better than an old school Commodore 64 or 386 or 486. You might even say that's common sense. That's kind of the opinion I'm saying is valid. And that's how I view moral statements. They're opinions. But that doesn't mean that they're completely relative and completely subjective or arbitrary, I think is a better word. I would say they're subjective but not arbitrary. Much like comparing the computers I just described. Subjective, not arbitrary. And emotivism is also not moral non-cognitivism. I don't think that moral statements are nonsensical. I just don't think that they're truths. They're not true or false. If that makes sense. It's not really true to say my computer is better than an old school Commodore 64 or 386, 486, or a really old computing machine. It's not technically a truth. It's an opinion. But it's not nonsensical. It does make sense. It's a valid opinion, and it's one that you should treat, or at least that I would treat as a truth. But that doesn't actually make it one. That's my view on morality. Thank you.